In 2012, at the age of 19, I competed at the Olympic Games alongside my 4 teammates, winning Great Britain's first Olympic men's gymnastics team medal in 100 years. And this is my story. So at the age of 7 years old, I was a really hyperactive kid. I could never sit still. I found it really hard to concentrate at school. I was jumping from sofa to sofa in my mum's living room. I wasn't naughty. I just really didn't know what to do with all the energy I had inside of me. And it was actually a school teacher that suggested to my mum that she takes me along to the local gymnastics club. So I'd never heard of gymnastics before. All my family are footballers. I can remember my mum rung up the gymnastics coach at the time. She said, "What does he need to wear?" I went along, and in my first gymnastics class, it was just me and 15 girls. Because back then, in the year 2000, it wasn't very popular for boys to do gymnastics. But I absolutely loved it. I ran around this mat like a crazy child. Nobody told me off. I thought, this is brilliant. Went back the next week, enjoyed it, started to learn some very basic gymnastics skills. And I noticed as well at my school at the time, they had a gymnastics club. So I joined this gymnastics club, and I think they used to meet on, I think it was lunchtimes on like a Thursday afternoon, and there was a gymnastics competition coming up, and I loved competing. I was super competitive when I was a kid, and I went into this competition for my school, competed, did really well, won a gold medal, but I was the only boy competing. A lady came up to my dad after the competition, and she said, "Where does Sam do gymnastics? Because we think he's got quite a lot of potential." And my dad said, "Look, he's just started. He does it in the village." She said, "We'd like him to come along for a trial at the Notts School of Gymnastics, as it was known back then." So my dad took me along, and when you're 7 years old, everything is massive. So I'm walking in with my dad. This gym is huge. It's silver, this big silver building. It looks like a spaceship, especially when you're 7 years old. And we get there, and to the entrance of the gym, there's 2 big double doors, and there's a pane of glass in the top half, and the bottom half's solid, and I was so little, I couldn't see. So my dad stood there, looking into this gym, seeing gymnastics for the first time, eyes wide open. I'm like tapping him on the leg, saying, "Dad, I can't see." And he lifts me up, and I pull myself up like this, and for the first time I see gymnastics, and I'm mesmerised. There's these boys and girls running around, doing somersaults and tricks, swinging around bars, jumping on trampolines. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Now, after a few minutes, I remember seeing very clearly a boy swinging around the high bar. He's going all the way around like this. And when you do that, it's called a giant. I didn't know it at the time. And there was a lady stood next to me and my dad, and she kind of looked at me and she said, "You know, if you come here and you work really hard, you'll be able to do that one day." And I kind of looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, is she telling the truth?" And he kind of said, "I think so, mate." And at that moment, the coach asked me to come into the gym, and I walked in to a gymnastics club, a proper gymnastics club with all the gymnastics equipment for the very first time. And I went in, I did a little bit of a trial. He asked to see my flexibility. I wasn't flexible when I was 7 years old, so I couldn't do the splits, so they weren't very good. He asked me to try and do a handstand. Hadn't learned that yet, so I tried to kick up to a handstand and fell over. Tried again, fell over. He said, "Don't worry." Asked me to do some press-ups now. When I was 7 years old, I was the strongest kid in my class, so I did like 10 press-ups, I think. And he said, "Amazing." And he said, "Okay, you're not flexible, but that's fine. We can work on that. And you can't do a handstand, but I really like that you didn't give up. And you're very strong, and that's going to be super important. So we're going to give you a chance. You're going to come on trial for 1 month, every Saturday for 1 hour, and we'll see how you get on." And that's where it started. And I loved it straight away. I took to the sport. I felt like my favourite TV characters when I was a kid was like Peter Pan, Buzz Lightyear, the Power Rangers, anyone that could fly. So for me, I felt like I was flying. And to get that energy out of me and to go and just throw myself upside down into a foam pit, it was literally like going to a children's playground and just being let loose. It was amazing. Now, when I started gymnastics, it was the year 2000, and that was an Olympic year, but I had no idea what the Olympics was back then. I was just doing it because I loved it. And week after week, that first month went by. They said, "Sam, you're doing really well. You're improving. We'd like you to start coming twice a week now." So I started going 2 times a week, then 3 times a week, then 4 times a week. And before I knew it, in a really short space of time, I was training 6 days a week at the age of 9 years old.